Yeah, I think there's a lot to dissect in understanding this. This is one of the roles of VA research, to begin to start asking those questions. And of course, we now have the largest database in the world of American suicides, and our issue is to study the subpopulation of veteran suicide. So we've begun to look at a lot of these questions. There is no doubt that one of the basic conclusions that you have to come out of this by looking at this data is that what many Americans often don't remember is that the impact of war often is seen decades and decades after people return home. And so when we make the decision to send our young men and women into harm's way, we have to be prepared for a bolus of the impacts of that, the consequences of that, decades and decades later. Our World War II veteran peak use of healthcare services was in 1986. Today, with the average Vietnam veteran being 66 years old, we are beginning to see the peak of the Vietnam veterans. Many of these suicides, you are correct, clearly the largest group in the above age 50, 55 are our Vietnam veterans. And so we have to design our strategies to make sure that we're addressing and meeting their needs. We've developed vet centers, and we've developed outreach programs specifically working with Vietnam veterans. There is a smaller second bolus with our younger veterans, where that's our fastest growing segment, not the largest number. And even the subpopulation of women veterans is the single biggest increase in demographics of veteran suicide. So we have multiple targets that we're designing our intervention strategies as we begin to understand this data better.
Have you ever, in that walk-in clinic in New York, had somebody come in who said, I'm thinking about killing myself?
Well, in VA, no, but I will tell you about the very first patient that I saw at VA in the New York clinic. He was a 23-year-old recent Army veteran, and he came in, and it was a very strange experience for me because he had very, very mild symptoms, maybe some stomach ache symptoms and very weird things. And I finally said to him at one point, I don't get it. Why are you here? You know, because I'm used to seeing people who have something pretty bothersome to them to come in to see the doctor. And he said, well, because I'm living in Central Park. I've been homeless for 4 months. I have no place to go. You know, I was used to the military cooking my meals, providing me a place to live, giving me a paycheck, and now I find myself not knowing what to do. As soon as he said that, I knew how to help him, because VA has a very strong program in finding veterans places to live and dealing with homelessness. I think not that he was suicidal, but he was on a path without intervention to really getting into crisis. And so, and I'm very proud of the way that VA has integrated behavioral health into primary care, the way that VA deals not just with physical illness, but deals with the social, psychological, economic, and spiritual aspects of well-being in an integrated approach that, frankly, you just don't see too often in the private sector.
Did you ever follow up with him? Have any idea how he ended up?
I followed up with our homeless coordinator, who had gotten him placed that evening in a shelter, and then they unfortunately lost contact with him.
Yeah, and that's just the way it is in essence for many of these guys, because there's so many of them, and if they don't keep in touch, there's no way of knowing.
That's right.
Two other things that stuck out to me in this study. Of the 20 veterans on average who kill themselves on a daily basis, the study found that 6 in 20 of them had been recent users of the Veterans Health Administration services. Does that suggest that the care isn't sufficient, or that if you were reaching more of them through VHA, this wouldn't happen? Have you been able to draw any conclusions from that?
Yeah, I think the conclusions that I think you can clearly reach by looking at the data is that getting people help and getting them into treatment saves lives. And that shouldn't be a surprise. So of the 14 veterans a day who take their life who are not in the VA system, our concern is that they may not be getting any care at all, and that they may be very isolated and alone and not knowing how to reach out or not having access to services. And clearly, access to behavioral health care is a true American healthcare failure. It is just too hard to get the right behavioral health care that you need. Part of it is the way our insurance system works and economic, and part of it is still stigma, unfortunately. Those that get the care in the VA system, it's not that we can always prevent this terrible outcome, but we do know that the rates are lower for those who get care in the system. And particular in some segments like women veterans, those that get care in the VA system have actually been experiencing a decrease over the last 14 years in suicide, while those that are out in the community are seeing dramatic increases. And that's one of the reasons we're using our not-for-profit partners and our private sector partners in an integrated approach to try to reach out to all veterans. We have a public service announcement that we've just released last week with Tom Hanks as our narrator to get that message out there that everybody has a responsibility to reach out to veterans and to be there for them in their time of need.